Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Block Party number 95, February 4th, 2022. And we're talking about solar radiation management. And we just saw the TED Talk that Bill brought to our attention kindly, that Professor Stephen Salter gave back in 2016 about marine cloud brightening. Since then, the melting of the Arctic sea ice has continued to accelerate. And the effects of global warming are, of course, vastly greater. The impacts of them have been felt. I mean, everything from Australian wildfires to the burning of the American West, et cetera, to Canadian forest fires and heat dome that we had last summer, killing scores of people in southwestern Canada. And the United States, Oregon, et cetera. So things are really heating up, really accelerating. James and Alan, who are here on this call, and I and Jamie all traveled to Glasgow, Scotland for COP26 with Darth Vader and did some great work there promoting this and really getting it on the forefront of people's minds, because it was not being well promoted within COP. So there we were outside of COP doing our performances, singing, and we had a dozen big posters, about almost half of which were focused on marine cloud brightening and other forms of SRM. That really helped get this on the map. And in fact, Stephen Salter, who we just saw, was quoted in the press as saying that we, with our Darth Vader routine and all of our messages, we're doing more for saving species than anyone else at COP26. So a huge endorsement from Professor Stephen Salter. And so it's now getting traction. It feels like we're nearing the dramatic climatic end of a James Bond movie, where either we're going to make it, either the planet's going to make it, or it's not. And it's up to us. So we're doing a lot of work, and that, as James will summarize in a few minutes when he gets back, on promoting solar radiation management, thanks, Sarah, specifically marine cloud brightening. And there's really, broadly speaking, in my mind, two ways, and if you have other ways, please speak up and share, but two big ways that we can promote solar radiation management and get it to actually happen. One is what I would call the direct path, where we have these more and more of these meetings like James is organizing with scientists and engineers, that we publish and promote the imperative of solar radiation management, the benevolence of solar radiation management, as Professor Salter was saying on his TED Talk, and the low cost of getting it done. So the direct route, just get it out to the public, to governments, to nonprofits, to billionaires, to the scientific community, that this is what we need to do, and let's do it, right? The other is a less direct approach, which basically says, hey, it acknowledges that humanity is pretty screwed up right now. That's perhaps an understatement. And we need to help get humanity back on track so that we can get out of the trauma-induced addictions that plague humanity, like the addiction to hoarding as a means to first survival and then aggrandizement of the ego. Both of which are completely unnecessary if we reorganize society to care for our own, right? Charity begins at home. And so one hypothesis is that before we can get a critical mass of humanity to care enough about solar radiation management that we actually get it done, we first need to transform humanity, or begin a transformation of humanity, which of course is an evolutionary process, but get enough of us transformed and awakened to this new reality that we are urgently promoting, that yes, we can and must take care of each other, our fellow species, and the planet as a whole through marine cloud brightening. So anyway, with that, I'm going to pass the talking feather. Love to hear from everyone, and then we can look forward to hearing from James when he pops back in. Passing the talking feather.
Well, I'd just like to thank everyone for what you've brought forth. I'm always learning because I come by or I watch the videos of these events. And this marine cloud brightening concept is, wow, I don't think very many people have tuned into it as you people have. So 2 thumbs up. And congratulations, James, for this upcoming event. I'm really looking forward to getting more information as to how I may view this event. One of the things I'll invite you to, Jamin or Bill or James, if you want today, if you can break away for a few minutes even. I'm a member of a group called Canadian Association for the Club of Rome. And they're an Ottawa, Canada-based group of scientists. And every week they have some very interesting presentations by experts in various fields. So this last Wednesday, a fascinating presentation by an expert on insecticides. And wow, we need to be thinking about that. The insect populations are collapsing around the world, and chemicals are a big part of it. And anyway, those are the types of presentations that get made every week. And so today they have a Friday informal chat at about 12 p.m. or 12 noon your Pacific time. And boy, if someone would maybe join me in popping in there to just talk about possibly lining up Dr. Salter to do a presentation, this group would be, I think, quite interested in it, as well as, meeting any of you, because you've all got interesting ideas to share. I pass the talking feather.
Awesome. Thank you, Miles. So that's noon Pacific time in 1 hour and 40 minutes from now. So, and you'll be going to that today, Miles?
Yes, I will attend and introduce whoever would join me, if it would be you, Jamin, because I'm a member, and as I understand it, a member has to sponsor a speaker. So, but you would be, if you're willing, you'd be my connector to Dr. Salter or some other people. Now, incidentally, Paul Beckwith is a regular attendee to the Canadian Association of the Club of Rome, and he actually spoke on his experience at COP26 just recently. Dr. Bill Reese, who's from the University of British Columbia and is accredited with the concept of the what do you call it, the ecological footprint. That came out of apparently Dr. Bill Reese, his work at the University of British Columbia. So anyway, and Dr. Ye Tao, and team, and Bill, if you would like to address this group. They do have often a lot of people who are notable in government here in Canada. It's not a huge organization. Their YouTube channel is available. I invite you to go check it out, Canadian Association for the Club of Rome. Right now they're at 931 subscribers, 77,000 views, but they do host some really fascinating speakers. And Dr. Sailesh Rao is actually presenting, and I'm his sponsor. He's presenting on April 6th for topic, climate healers, food in climate, and cow in the room. That's his presentation, April 6th. So look forward to that.
Well, that's really cool, Silas. And our brother Hugo Sierra just joined. Let me give a warm bienvenido to Hugo, who's joining from Mexico. So we've got all of NAFTA here represented. That's exciting. Welcome, Hugo. And Hugo's getting us connected to Mexican media. We'll be on Mexican television, as Hugo will give us a recap in a moment. First, Bill has his hand up. Go for it, Bill. And we are recording, and we can pause anytime, of course. Just say so.
I've been following the Canadian Club of Rome for a bit now, and I'm a subscriber, and it's quite fascinating. I don't exactly know what I could contribute, but to be sponsored and speak at the Canadian Club of Rome, I would certainly be willing to do that. To maybe show them the boots on the ground efforts I'm doing with prototypes and things, which I can be useful at. So,
well, Bill, if you could join myself and hopefully Jamin or anyone else today, just to say hello, break the ice. It's an informal chit chat with the director. One of the the directors typically hang out on this little chat. And yeah, they're a fascinating bunch of people. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in civil engineering, and I'm always like in awe of these people who are all these PhDs and esteemed thinkers. But they may be esteemed thinkers, but they don't know everything. And like I've been rattling their cages, telling them. And maybe you've even seen me on some of the videos where I pop in with a question saying, well, it's all well and good, your small modular nuclear reactors, but would you change your presentation to reflect that industrial animal agriculture, meat and dairy is actually the biggest culprit when it comes to greenhouse gas emissions? And I do get people going, oh, well, gee, I hadn't heard about that. And they do pause to reflect, and I'm really looking forward to Dr. Rao shaking things up. But so yeah, Bill, if you can join us today, that'd be great. Just a few minutes would be really super.
That sounds fine. Can you tell me? Can you send me an invitation, please? And what time would this be occurring?
Sure. What typically happens is I get a message from Art Hunter, and it comes out, and he just says, "Okay, folks, the chat room's open," and he sends that out about 1 o'clock my time, which is I'm Mountain time. Oh, you're Mountain too?
No, Pacific. Sorry.
Oh, you're Pacific. So it'd be about 12. I will send out. I'll be monitoring both here and there. And as soon as I get the message of the chat room's open, we can send it out. And they're it's really casual. So you don't have to land right at the moment at any given time. People just come and go, chit chat.
Okay, send me an invite, please. Do you have my email?
Will do. I don't think I have your email. No. So if you could put it in chat,
Jamin,
that'd be great.
Oh yeah, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat in a minute here. I'm gonna screen share. First of all, James has a 2-minute video on an update on methane. So let's go ahead and watch that.
No, Jamin. No, sorry, you misunderstood. I was just saying 2 minutes there. I'll be with you in 2 minutes. The link, not 2 minutes at all, though. I actually have it paused on a part. It's actually a lot longer video, and it's fairly technical, but I paused it at a certain part because we were talking about, the MCB and the urgency of it, and it's about methane at the moment, like.
Okay, well, you've got priority here, James, so just jump in whenever you want and feel free to screen share. Meanwhile, I'll get Miles and Bill connected. but anyway, it sounds like Miles is going to put the link in the chat here anyway. So thank you so much for that, Miles. Yeah, so let's, whoever wants to, I guess, if you're game, Miles, whoever wants to can join you on what we would call a field trip to the Canadian Club of Rome. Yeah, but anyway, James, please take it away whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. No, it's just a small clip I wanted to show on the levels of methane at the moment in the system, the latest results out on it, and also, like, if you're into this kind of a video, no, it's a fairly technical one by Paul Beckwith, but it does give good detail, and it does show that you know, the forcing in the Atlantic, the heat at the moment, and the forcing is creating you know, methane levels are rising significantly now in the last 2 years alone, and we're already under the threat of a methane bomb, as they call it, at any day, you know, and that's what Professor Natalia Shukova predicted that in 2012 to the United Nations. At any day it could go, but we're getting really, really close to it now, so it's just all tied in with the actual melting of the Arctic and the urgency to get out MCB. So I'll just put a small clip up.
Yeah, go for it, James.
Global Monitoring Laboratory, you know, has some excellent data on the trends in atmospheric methane. So September 2021, this is up to date. This is the latest info on their site, so it's, you know, fairly recent. The value of the global mean was 1900 parts per billion, and that was, you know, quite a bit higher than the 2020 value. So you can see the curve here over the last few years. This is since, you know, going back to the early 80s, okay, with it flattening out and increasing. And this is what I want to bring your eye to. In 2020, the increase, this is the annual increase. Okay, so the annual increase in 2020 was 15.74 plus or minus 0.38 parts per billion. Here we are right here. Okay, so it's certainly the highest since the early 80s. The next highest was about 1991 or so. It was 14.05 was the increase. Okay, and 99 or 98 was 12.13. That was a very warm year because of the El Nino. Okay, and this was also a high year here in 2014, 12.77, but nothing close to this 15.74. Okay, so methane increased more more in 2020 than it had in any other year. So this is a trend that is very concerning. It's going the wrong way. Of course, the methane global warming potential, I use, you know, I just went into Google Images and searched for methane global warming potential, and you know, on a 20-year time frame, 86 times. And 34 times on a 100-year time scale. So these are the numbers in the latest IPCC report. This is from the AR5 assessment, the one that
Now, what he said there, basically what he was saying there was that you know, we at a 20-year methane in the atmosphere over 20 years is about 86 times more powerful than CO2. And over a 100-year period, it's only about 34 times more powerful than CO2. Now, what he forgets to mention there is is the most important thing, is that if you reduce the amount of years, you increase the amount of strength that the methane has. So if you go down to 2 or 3 years, obviously, which is what the predictions are for an ice-free Arctic, and we have a massive increase, or even just a steady increase of more methane on top of the already disastrous levels. On a 4-year scale, like as they say, if we try to follow Extinction Rebellion's motivations and the government's plan of reducing CO2 straight away, we're all aware of even the governments are aware of the global masking effect, but they just try to pawn it off by saying, yes, but methane only has a short lifespan of 12 years or so. What they're not saying is, for those 12 years, at 20 years, it's 86 times more powerful than CO2. So for 12 years, it'll be at least in the 90s more powerful than CO2. And if you have 90 times more powerful CO2 in the atmosphere on top of what we already have in a short period of time, then we won't have 20, 30 or 100 years for the methane to dissipate. We'll already be gone. We'll already be gone within a year of this happening in 12, or in a couple of months or a year or two of it happening, we'd be gone. There'd be no point waiting around to see how long the fucking methane waste lasts, because we won't be here to check it out. He's not actually focusing on that point, but I am going to bring that up with him at the meeting anyway, because he has accepted the invitation. But I just quickly here, I just want to see if he, I think some of you might be aware of this chart here anyway. I might be on the wrong side, I don't know, where am I? No, what I'll do altogether now, look, is I'll just stop sharing and I'll leave it at that, because it's a fairly technical video. The link is in the chat, and for those who would be interested in watching the whole lot of it, I'd advise you to watch it, and also watch the video he released just the day after it then as well. It's on Paul Beckwith on YouTube, but you'll see the link in the chat anyway. Point I'm making is that even Paul Beckwith, even though he's aware of it, he missed out on a very valid point there, which is the fact that on a time span, which the government are trying to convince us we're okay because it'll dissipate on a long time span, the urgency is that if it is released, we don't even have a short span to wait for it to dissipate. The contribution to the added contribution is enough to tip us over completely, like to the point of disaster for everything. So that is a point we have to make focus on, but it's also a point we have to focus on in the sense of how urgent it is to get out MCB up and running, because we won't be able to, if, as you said, as it was said to President Trump only recently, and if we lose the Arctic, we lose the planet, and that is true. That has not been made up. It's not falsified information. It's not just a fucking surmisation. It's fact. And if we lose the Arctic, we lose all life. Therefore, all other plans and all other great ideas and all other, all of us beautiful people here together and all the others out there trying to make the world a better place, all our plans, our separate individual plans, will fall to the wayside if we can't deal with the one urgent problem that affects all of us together. And therefore, together, we must come together to push for this so that it buys us time to put all our beautiful plans into place. I'll leave it at that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, James. And I just want to point out, there have been times that we've here on this channel been focused on cooling the planet through solar radiation management, marine cloud brightening being the most effective way to do that. There are times that we've been focused on this channel on food healers, love all, feed all, and feeding everyone plant-based foods. And there have been other times that we've been focused on collective intelligence. I personally believe, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to please share your thoughts, even if they're in total contradiction to mine. It's okay. Let's get all our best ideas out on the table, and then together collectively, we can figure out the very best path forward. But my personal belief, speaking for me, not for anyone else, is that we need to bring all three of these major vectors together. Feeding everyone plant-based foods, to start a revolution in humanity, a revolution of hope to quote President Vicente Fox of Mexico, a dear friend with whom we've done some amazing collaborations, start a revolution of hope that will help wake humanity up, right? See, because right now we're so distracted. The reason we haven't done marine cloud brightening yet is because we're distracted by so many distractions. My brother for years has been part of a local group here in the Pacific Northwest called Weapons of Mass Distraction. Weapons of mass distraction. The mass media, the corporations, social media, on and on and on. Distraction, distraction, distraction. And the major underlying theme behind all of that is money. Corporations wanting to sell you stuff. And the way they do that is through advertising. And so all these advertising messages, which create a general impression that basically, you know what, everything's fine, right? Global warming got you down. Just get a new iPhone or an iPad or a Tesla or this or that, And, we have to be very cognizant of how vulnerable we are as a species to such messaging. We're such a social species. We all want to, kind of be with it and not miss out on the party, whatever the party is. So what we're doing in Los Angeles, starting in a little less than 2 weeks, is creating a whole new party. A party on the beach in Santa Monica, a party in the park, Pan Pacific Park, a party on the steps of Los Angeles City Hall, saying, hey, we're starting a revolution here in Los Angeles, transforming Los Angeles into the world's first compassionate metropolis with nutritious, delicious plant-based foods made freely available to all, so that everyone will be guaranteed three nutritious meals a day. And the reason that I bring that in the context of solar radiation management and marine cloud brightening is precisely to initiate a holistic revolution, a revolution of compassion, indeed a revolution of love, not just for love for ourselves and love for our friends, neighbors, family, etc., but a love for all of humanity, all animals, all species, all ecosystems, extending all the way to a love for Mother Earth and life on Earth, which I believe is necessary for getting a critical mass of us to actually make marine cloud brightening happen. And let's see. And Ugo, you have to get going. Okay, gotcha. Feel free to jump in and say hello, Ugo. And I know you got to go, so that's okay. You're on mute right now, Ugo.
Yes, unfortunately, I had something not planned going on now, but as I put on my message, I share with you on WhatsApp the information that we planned to discuss about this broadcasting interview. I hope I had the opportunity to rejoin this session later on during the day, but in any case, you have the information right there. And hello to everybody.
Okay, great, Ugo. Thank you, Ugo. All right.
Okay.
We'll see you a bit later then, Ugo. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Bye now.
All right. See you soon. So back to the kind of quick thesis. Miles, I see you got your hand up. So again, my thesis is we need to bring these three major vectors together. Yes, direct action and direct conversation on solar radiation management. Food healers, love all, feed all, and the revolution of compassion, starting in Los Angeles and spreading to the world, and then the collective intelligence associated with that and with solar radiation management of bringing us together, bringing humanity together in conversation. That's why we do our block parties every Friday for 24 hours. Anyway, that's my thesis in a nutshell, that we need to do it all in a holistic, integrated way. And love to hear your thoughts. And with that, I pass the talking feather to Miles. And love to hear from everyone. Go ahead, Miles.
Yeah, thanks, Jamin. To build on what you said about distraction, the amount of distraction people are being sucked into, made me think of how recently on YouTube, I've watched a program that focuses on the luxury cruise line industry, ocean cruise lines. And you would think that with all that's going on, that the cruise line industry would be really on the ropes. But strangely, they're still building brand new, massive 6,000 person cruise ships. The next ones are coming out, bigger than ever. They will be so-called greener because they'll be running on liquid natural gas instead of diesel, which I guess helps. Well, actually not very good when you think about the need for the what do we call it? The particulate.
Condensation nuclei.
Yeah, and the McPherson paradox. So anyway, how's that for distraction? We can come up with the wherewithal to build these massive cruise liners, even at this moment. Yet, we need these marine cloud brightening ships. The other thing, talking about distraction, is there's a channel called YouTube channel B1M. Not sure if you know it. It calls itself the Definitive Video Channel for Construction, and they feature all of the big projects that are going on. So, for example, the most recent video they posted on YouTube is titled "Inside Chicago's Airport Rebuild." Do you know how much money Chicago's spending on updating the airport there? 8.5 billion. So, like, what on earth? So, and then there's all these other mega projects that they talk about. So for Nord Stream 2, the pipeline that's almost finished, ready to turn on, it takes natural gas from Russia to Europe. That was an $11 billion project. Anyway, this channel has 2.26 million subscribers and 313 million views, I think it is. Anyway, somehow we need to get these guys talking about the need for these marine cloud brightening ships. Passing the talking feather.
Beautiful, Miles. In fact, Bill, who's here with us now and who is a builder, brought up some profound points a week ago at his first block party about precisely bringing in builders into the conversation. And because builders get stuff done, right? And we really need everyone in this conversation. So here we've got 8 billion people on the planet, and we need a tiny, tiny fraction of that 8 billion to be focused and committed to making solar radiation management happen. And we can do it. Professor Salter talked about, the extremely low costs of getting this done. Bill, who lives in one of the wealthiest communities in the San Francisco Bay Area, I made the point to Bill a couple of days ago, Bill, you could literally walk around your neighborhood and pass the hat and raise enough money to do marine cloud brightening. So it's not like we need everybody on board. We need a critical mass. Anyway, with that, I pass the talking feather.
Hey, everybody, it's Bill. And I'm enjoying today's meeting, even though I'm running around a little bit here. But yeah, one of my biggest outreaches after I built that first prototype that I just saw, what are you doing, man? That I just saw as somebody I should reach out to was Roger Hallam, because Roger is an organic farmer by trade, and he is, hands in soil kind of guy, and I'm sawdust on shoulder kind of guy, even though I seem to do more running around than that these days. But that being said, I just really pointed out to Roger that, it would be really nice that the thousands of people within XR could hear anything positive So, I mean, I was pretty moot regarding this entire issue to anybody. And I still don't really bring it up, even though I'm becoming more of a Guy McPherson, that when somebody sits down next to you on a plane and asks you if you want the armrest up or down, I'm like, oh, you want to talk about SRM? How, if you've ever heard some of his talks, he's just hilarious. I mean, oh, you want to talk about, human extinction or whatever, just freak people out. That being said, this is a plan. We've got, well, in this forum, we've got one plan, but I'm actually helping out both forums. So I'm just all about SRM. And I'm doing this for nature, humanity, and especially my two kids, Jack and Karina. So, because all human beings are selfish, and I guess I'm a little selfish in that respect also, but I really wanted to just get it through to Roger. I mean, why wouldn't you want to promote something to give people, and it's a four-letter word, and I don't like using it, and I had it completely erased it out of my head, which is hope. And but human beings do a lot with hope. I mean, the Affirmation Society, the Optimist Club, I mean, I don't know how many collective people you could get into a room that would spell a bunch of people who do not accept reality. So it's not like I'm not a happy person by it, just naturally, I'm a really happy person. But, this really threw me for a loop. And then I'm seeing it with 2020 vision, and nobody else even wants to admit that it exists. So we've still got an uphill battle just getting through to people regarding things that all of us in this room have particular glasses. We can just see it fine. And everybody else is walking around watching, sitcoms. I mean, I love watching dark humor and things like that, or share with me some good gallows humor. But now all of a sudden we've got something we can get we can dig into a little bit. And I would rather go out getting fried on a mountain, putting the last mirror on top of that mountain, and or installing the last rudder on one of these marine cloud brightening ships than sitting on my hands. And I pass the feather.
All right, so we've talked a lot about the imperative. I'd like to gently encourage us to talk about how we get this imperative objective met, right? Again, I've talked about the direct path, focus on SRM, conversations about SRM, the kind of awesome meeting that James is organizing on SRM in the coming couple of weeks. And then I've talked about the less direct path, which is first transform and wake up humanity through food healers, love all, feed all, this revolution of care and compassion and love for self, for other, for all people, all life on earth, all the way to Mother Earth. So anyway, again, I'd love to hear other people's thoughts. If you like that, say, yeah, amen, J-men. Love it. If you think of a different way, a better way for how we can get marine cloud brightening implemented in time, say it, right? Now's the time to get our best ideas on the table. And yes, Bill has an idea. Go for it, Bill. You're on mute there. There you go. You're on mute.
Well, I shared with you my idea the other day, and I know it was just something that's a small billboard on the back of my car, which might sound minute, but it's getting noticed. And you saw that, right, Jamin?
Yes. Increasing the glide.
Yes, but it was separating. So it's going to be both. For me, it's going to be both mirror and it's going to be MCB. But did you see how where I put MCB on? It was on the left side when you read left to right. what comes to your eye first, right?
Exactly.
So regardless, I'm currently working with my design graphics person at my print shop and I've got to produce a sticker that is one of these lovely hydrofoil ships, and then work up the back of my car to get that done, which is something. But the people in my area, I've got a small contractor for them, and the people in my area know what's going on behind the scenes a little bit. I mean, the chat is starting, and that's what it's about. It's about getting something started. I mean, all these people have families. I'm walking around, I'm seeing pregnant people everywhere around me because it's a great time to be pregnant. And none of these people know what's at stake here. But they're finding out. And I think it's going to be something that's going to go slow, and then it's going to go bam. And I think we're right on the cusp of that. Maybe I'm optimistic, but I think we're close. I really do.
Jamin, I'm wondering if you would bring up, well, I guess I can do it if I know how to do it, but if you could share the B1M YouTube overview screen of their YouTube channel.
Sure.
And just have a look at these mega projects that they list. And part of me doesn't want to encourage mega projects because, you know, there's something about we have to get off the concept of growth is necessary for a happy life. And mega projects kind of connects with, you know, big is better. But if there's anything that needs to get promoted as a mega project around the world, it's these ships and the marine cloud brightening ships and or mirrors. And we need to get this B1M people to start talking about this. And why is it that not every shipbuilding port nation doesn't get on board with contributing some ships to this?
Yeah, very good, Miles. Thank you. Here, let me screen share what Miles is talking about. This is the.
But I just want us to take a look at what is being promoted as opposed to what needs to be promoted.
Yeah, so we've got, you got Chicago's $8.5 billion airport rebuild. You've got $110 billion Arctic megaports, for example, which basically say, hey, the Arctic's melting. Great. Now we can create these megaports to really cut down on the shipping time between, say, North America and Asia. Just go up and over the top of the planet because it's all melted. Wonderful, right? Anyway, that's what's being promoted right now. Other power mega projects, Nord Stream, $11 billion. Anyway, so you can see here on the screen some of the
things.
About
a tunnel for cruise ships. Like, yeah, we really need tunnels. Norway's, what is that one? Norway cruise ship tunnel? What the heck is that?
Norway's cruise ship tunnel. Oh yeah, Norway's $47 billion coastal highway. I mean, here, life on Earth is being extinguished. And for less than $10 billion, we could cool the planet. This one project is 5 times that amount. And no one will ever live to see it at the rate at which we're extinguishing life. So again, it gets back to how do we get humanity, or a critical mass of humanity that's sufficient to get this done, to get away from the distractions and the addictions of life, including hoarding, including money, including entertainment, including drugs, et cetera, et cetera. How do we do it? That is the life or death question right now, right? How do we do it? Again, I've talked about a direct path, an indirect path. Bill talked about it, a sticker on the back of his car. What are some other ideas as to how we can get a critical mass of humanity into the game in time? Because time is running out. We're now months away from an ice-free Arctic unless we implement large-scale, planetary-scale solar radiation management to cool the planet, and specific concentrations of that in the Arctic region to cool the Arctic and prevent the loss of the Arctic ice, which again would trigger the methane bomb, which has been predicted for over 10 years now, thanks to Professor Natalia Shakova, as James mentioned earlier. Let's hear your best thoughts. Passing the feather. I mean, look at how much distraction is afflicting us right now. Here we are, 10 of us, when there should be 10 million of us in this conversation. There are 10 of us, and a lot of these 10 we're distracted. We're having our big weekly meeting on SRM, and a lot of us are distracted. Myself included. I'm worried about this, that, the other. And as life gets more intense and more destruction proceeds, we're arguably going to be even more distracted by the immediate urgencies of staying alive. So, you know, we have arguably a shrinking window within which to get this done. So can we get it done? And if so, how? That's the topic I'm proposing we put on the table, and love to hear everyone's thoughts. So even if you're distracted, see what you can do to pull yourself back here and share your best ideas, or even just questions, comments, challenges, anything. This is collective intelligence in action, applied to cooling the planet and saving life on Earth. Passing the feather. Yes, Franca. Franca, we can't hear you. We cannot hear you. Now, you're not muted, but there's something that's not connecting in terms of your microphone.
One of my old iPhones that works well, except for the built-in microphone. I always have to use a headset for this very one. I'm sure the people who made the film, Don't Look Up, were thinking about this on a big scale. So I wonder what we could learn from their approach, how it worked and how it didn't work. And I think if a lot of people watched the film, and maybe even if there was a frame built around it, in terms of, well, and enjoy the program, A-listers, beautiful movie, and open a bit of your heart to be touched, perhaps, or be open to be touched or something. And I'm not even sure that the film is getting a fair chance to do its thing. I don't know, but as far as psychoengineering is concerned, I think it's very fine. It's done very well. It's the first thing I'm thinking of right now. Is everybody familiar with Don't Look Up? Can I see a show of hands?
Yes, yeah. I've not seen it yet.
And I actually, to tell the truth, I haven't seen it either. I know what it's about, and I've seen lots of clips of the movie on YouTube. And I'm so much on board with the message, and I can see how it was done. I don't really have to watch it. I can see how it's powerful. So if you don't have the time to watch it, no, whatever, just look at the clips on YouTube.
I'm looking forward to it. I've just been running. I had a comment regarding Jamin, what we were talking about, what he was mentioning regarding running around and being busy. And that is, you know, it's a mixed bag, because if I don't keep running and financing my family and my jobs and my clients, I will not be able to do everything else I'm doing. So it's a complete perfect catch-22. You're running, it's like, you know, you're running to the edge of a cliff and you're jumping off, but you got to keep on feeding the kids the whole way. So it's a complete just perfect catch-22. Trust me, this is still a lot better than me thinking that it's over. And then I'm like, why would I even bother waking the cattle up to slaughter? That might be a little hard, but now I'm like, well, hell, we've got a chance here. Let's do it. Let's go. And everybody still is like, well, I don't know. Let me think about it. It's like, really, how much have you thought about it up to this point? I mean, you're watching The Big Bang Theory, and I'm watching every single possible scientific program I can find. Have you guys tuned into Cambridge Zero? It's another forum I've found. But academia is really starting to take off regarding the climate, because I mean, you can shut up the networks, but you can't shut up kids. And you know, if you look at the productions and the symposiums on another network, which is Mirror, they're all college students. College students aren't afraid. Friggin' the old farts are afraid, and people my age are afraid, because they're looking at their 401k here, and they're looking at this other message here, and they're like, these don't match. These aren't mirror reflections of themselves. What are you talking about? I want to take the blue pill. I don't want the red pill. I'll take the blue pill. People are the people who happen to be in charge at the moment and are pulling the strings. So we've got the blind, it's not the blind leading the blind. It's the blind leading the people who are walking into who are checking their glasses saying, wait a second, it is so disheartening to see humanity's indifference to something that I've seen for the past 4 years now. And at first it scared the holy crap out of me, and now I'm just mad. And I'm just going to be pissed off. I'm just going to be pissed off until the end. Not pissed off ineffective, but pissed off trying to be effective. And I'm just going to go down as pissed off Bill, I guess. But, you can only be so pissed off, until you turn off people. So, all I know is I just keep on gathering. I'm making up more sheets now on, they should be ready today. You guys saw my presentation that was falling down with my collapsible tripod. I've got some 8.5 by 11s, so I can just keep them with me, and I can just pop it out and just say, okay, let me share with you a little story. This is called the Keeling Curve over the last million years. We were around since here, potentially this far back. There's proof of fire in caves 1 million years ago. It wasn't us, it was our relatives. If that doesn't go well, jive with your religious beliefs. I'm not here to debate religion. I'm here to just share a little story. We were definitely around for the last 200,000 years, or 2,000 years, whatever you want to believe, or 5,000 years. And this is where the Industrial Revolution started, it was at 280 ppm, or the peak where we should have actually been going back down. We lit the match on coal and oil, go all the way up to here to 417 ppm parts per million CO2. This is where we're at now. Do you see there's a problem? Do you see any correlation here? This is the same science that tells you when water boils. This is not an opinion. This is where we're at. Do you see, is there a problem here? It's the same thing with an ECT chart that goes up and down. This is normal. Flat line is not good. This is not normal. Pass the feather.
Yeah, a lot of people, especially the average person anyway on the street, don't really grasp the science behind like we're at 418 parts roughly per million. To the average person, that sounds like, yeah, that doesn't sound a whole lot, you know what I mean? Or if they say the ice caps could melt by 2100, so people are, yeah, sure, I won't be around then, like, you know what I mean? So that kind of information that they give out is designed specifically to get that reaction, so that they don't get people frightened or fucking enthused to actually do something about it. You know what I'm saying? It's the way they do it and the way they word it. But we all know, I mean, even as a novice chef, a pinch of salt, it can be enough to ruin a large meal. You know what I mean? And we're talking chemistry here, like, and so, that's physics and chemistry. It's as simple as that. And people don't really understand that, you add so many elements to something, then one of those elements is either going to take over and have a dominating effect, or mix with others and have an even worse effect, irregardless. It's not, you know what I'm saying? As you said yourself there, Bill, we're already at the middle, the water on the verge of boiling stage. I just screen share there. Oh, this is just another but this is an example now of our tipping point and where we are at the moment. I'll just let him explain it.
So once we get enough things tipping, you can consider a global tipping point. The whole globe could tip. So here we are in a little valley back in the Holocene, and we've come over into a much warmer world. So we're at this point here, and the pathway can go either way. With proper Earth system stewardship, we're aiming to get a stabilized Earth. But right now, with our human emissions and biosphere degradation, we're approaching planetary thresholds where we drop off the cliff, and there's all of these cascading feedbacks, and we go to a complete hothouse Earth. Okay, this is a huge risk. So the global tip.
This is why I think it's essential to get Paul Beckwith in with the conversation as well, because he is going to paint an overall picture of what the other scientists will be giving a talk on for the average person to understand. You know what I'm saying? But people don't seem to understand that because they're not getting the information. They may be getting some of the information, but you know the way it is with the mainstream, like, it's always half-truths. You know what I mean? Just to keep the people thinking they're informed, but at the same time, lost, really.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, James. Franca was waiting to speak in the last few minutes. I don't know if I got that right, Franca.
No, I was listening, and I accidentally put up my hand.
No, okay, no worries, no worries. It looks like Bill has something to say.
Actually, I was just scratching my head, but I've always got something to say. I just don't want to keep on repeating myself. All of a sudden, I thought, James, that Paul Beckwith was on this forum. I was just going to say, oh my God, it's such a pleasure to meet you. Hopefully I get to meet him on the event, which is in LA in like 10 days or something. That would be pretty amazing to meet a lot of these different scientists in person.
Oh yeah, are you coming down, Bill?
Anti. That's by, I mean, you know what kicks what kicks me in the ass is how selfish human beings are. It's just, you know, if you inherit, somebody could inherit, a few different people could inherit millions of dollars or win a lottery ticket. And what they first think to do is make themselves buy themselves everything. And not to say I wouldn't buy myself something, but I just, you know, you know what tweaked me is because when I first found out about this, because I have, you know, I'm a hunter fisherman going back to when I was like 9. And I started prepping like there was no tomorrow. And then all of a sudden I stopped and took pause. And I thought to myself, what the hell is going to happen if society collapses? And do I really want to be part of this? Then I started listening to Jem Bendell a little bit, deep adaptation. I know there's some controversy within Mir on his end-all goal. We're like, hey, okay, you wrote deep adaptation June of 2018. Mir, but actually Dr. Salters and Marine Cloud Brightening was around. Why aren't you jumping on that? Why didn't you jump on that bandwagon if you're that smart? And now why aren't you jumping on Mir's bandwagon? So we don't exactly know what Jem's all about. But again, if society collapses, I don't want any part. I mean, if it collapses because we're frying, I don't want any part of this world. I'm not going to go down dying of ionizing radiation. Not to say I'm at the least bit, not even the least bit. I've never been suicidal in my entire life. That doesn't even cross my mind. I'm a survivor. That's where I want to put my efforts to. But the selfishness of people, I mean, it's like the Canadian prepper. I tuned in one time and I'm like, so are you guys thinking about your community? Are you thinking that everything that you're promoting is me, my? I mean, are you thinking about your neighbors? What are you going to do? I mean, you know. Okay, I'm passing the feather.
Yeah, you know, you make a really good point about, you know, the individual prepper. We are all preppers, whether we're prepping with our 401k or prepping with, you know, guns and ammo and seeds and greenhouses. We're all preppers, right? And we've been conditioned for hundreds of thousands of years to look out for me and mine, right? Even going back to the origins of humanity, if it was a group of 100 people, okay, fine. The focus was on that group. Oh, here's an animal that we can kill and eat. Great. You know, never mind that animal is a mother of small babies that need her. We're focused on me and mine. So that's part of why I put so much emphasis on the holistic revolution and transformation of humanity through such programs as Love All, Feed All, which shift our thinking from me and mine to all of us, all of Los Angeles, all of Chicago, all of the world, all of humanity, and all of life on Earth. Thank you, vegan movement. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, all the wonderful vegans here. And so, you know, that shift is essential, absolutely essential. Otherwise, we're just a tiny handful of crackpots who are thinking about the big picture when everyone else is like, you guys are nuts. Get back to me and mine. That's how you're going to survive, right? So let's take a moment and just contemplate the deep radical shift that's going to be essential, even for a small critical mass of us. Right now, we are a tiny droplet of humanity in this room, right? And a tiny droplet of us who are even focused on Marine Cloud Brightening. James and Alan and Jamie and I were at COP26 for 2 weeks out there performing every day, minus a 1-day break. And the number of people who came up to us and said, yeah, I support this. This is awesome. This is a tiny fraction, most of whom we already knew. Dr. Silas Rao, Paul Beckwith, Dr. Yetao. We already knew them. So we're this teeny tiny little community, right? You know, we might as well be the Jim Jones community in Guyana. I think even they outnumbered us. I'm terrified to say. So it's time that we listen. If we're the only ones who are awake, then we have the noblesse oblige to, number one, stay together, and number two, grow our numbers. Number three, make this revolution happen. That's why I'm going to Los Angeles in a little over a week and doing these 4 events in a row. With Sarah, Bill, hopefully you can come down. Maybe we caravan down together. Let's do it. You're on my way. So I'm seeing you regardless. I got your number and I'm coming, and I'm not going to leave the Bay Area without Bill. So let's make it happen. And in fact, anyone who can make it to Los Angeles, please do. Anyone who knows anyone in Los Angeles. I made the point earlier this week. Everyone is either in Los Angeles or knows people in Los Angeles. So spread the word. February 17th at City Hall, February 19th at Pan Pacific Park, February 26th, Santa Monica, and block parties in between every Friday. You know, this is what I'm proposing. What do you propose?
Can you send an email with those dates, please, to the general group?
Yeah. They were in last night's email, and I'll. I
don't know that I got that email.
No. I forwarded it to you. You weren't on the list, and that's my bad. Sorry about that. I added the people you asked me to add, but I forgot to add you. I kind of assumed you were on it, but anyway, my bad. I forwarded it to you like an hour and a half ago or whenever it was. So you've got it in your inbox. But yeah, the first big events are February 17th and 19th. Thursday the 17th, 2 weeks from yesterday, is the press conference on the steps of City Hall of Los Angeles. And then the 19th at Pan Pacific Park, we're doing a big feeding event. Those are the first 2 big events.
Can I just show a small clip of a video that was released a couple of years ago now, but it's Jim Bendell giving a talk to the United Nations, in the EU, I mean.
Yeah.
But I'll just pick a small segment. You'd be surprised by this.
Yeah, go for it.
Fourth, and now the controversial bit, we need technology to save the Arctic ice sheet right now. If it disappears, then the change in Northern Hemisphere weather is going to be catastrophic for our grain harvests. And so it will also risk mass release of methane. Now, we don't know, and we'll never know ahead of time exactly how much methane could be destabilized or when, but of course, its release would be a matter of potential human extinction. So we should try to cool the Arctic immediately. And the best method I've learned about is marine cloud brightening, which would pump seawater from the Arctic Ocean up pipes and into the sky and spray it to increase and brighten clouds over the Arctic, which would cool the Arctic. Now, we don't know for certain how it would work, but we need to test it and test it now.
And like that was bad. That's gone back nearly 2017-18, as far as I know. And he was giving that talk to the EU. You know what I'm saying? But so they're well aware of it. They're well aware of it, and they literally refused Professor Salter's submission of marine cloud brightening to solutions in the COP26, along with a vast number of other scientists that Professor Salter has the names of to prove it, because they weren't in line with those who are running the COP, which was and has been proven now by the scientists, set up at the very beginning by the Americans, funded by the fossil fuel industries to make sure that the COP conventions would not work in getting rid of fossil fuels. Because in all 26 COPs, they've never once mentioned, as what's his name's mentioned there in that video we watched shortly, they never once mentioned any of the COPs about actually leaving fossil fuels in the ground. They never once actually addressed the problem they were set up to talk about.
James, do you have a timestamp or pointer to where Jim Blundell is saying that in that video? Because I'm sending it to somebody. I posted the TEDx talk with Dr. Salter, and I already had somebody respond skeptically. And so this is just very timely. If you can just give me do you have the time that is stated in that video?
Yeah, Miles, 22 minutes into the 22 minutes, 10 seconds into it. He starts talking.
Terrific. Excellent. I'm going to send it to this person. I don't understand this person who responded to the to the Dr. Salter video. And he says he feels that Dr. Salter, he says, Dr. Salter also flippantly threw out the projections of climate models and melting of the Arctic ice cap as junk, which reveals more about his lack of knowledge about atmospheric dynamics than where the trends are going. Like, I don't understand that. That's just crazy talk, because the whole purpose of Dr. Salter's work is in recognition of the Arctic projections. Anyway, I'll just send this Jim Blundell clip to him.
Well, Professor Stephen Salter addressed that in his TED Talk that we watched earlier today, right here, where he was simply showing that all the major models that are being promoted at COP and IPCC, et cetera, are wrong empirically, right? The projections all show, oh, we got till 2060, 2100,
yeah,
blah, 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 and it's falling into this
okay.
now. I mean, so we have prima facie evidence that those models are simply wrong. It's not that he's ignoring correct models, he's calling out incorrect models. There's a big difference.
Right. Okay, great. Thanks for that explanation.
Most importantly, because a model cannot accurately predict without having been supplied with the right information, and all various relatable information should be put into the model first before the model can actually make the right prediction. And in those models, they've never taken into account methane, or they've never taken into account either the actual 1750 baseline for the start of the Industrial Revolution. They keep it now they're up to the start of the 19th century, or 20th century even. They're using it in some up to 1990s, or 1980s, in some of their models or graphs. So they're literally falsifying their information from the get-go by not providing the models with accurate information, and also leaving out the fact that they're cutting off 0.3 degrees Celsius off of the heat that's already accumulated from 1750 to the start of the 1900s. So whatever figures they give out, which at the moment the IPCC during the COP26 said we're now at 1.2 degrees above pre-industrial. Well, by pre-industrial they meant the 1980s and that. So we're actually 0.3 onto that. We are now, and while they were speaking and giving out those false information, we were at 1.05 degrees Celsius, and have gone over 2 degrees and almost 3 degrees, over 3 degrees now in the Arctic at the moment, because the Arctic has now been proven to be warming 4 times faster than the rest of the globe. So we've crossed the 1.5 barrier already for the majority of the globe, but we've more than crossed it in the Arctic. But they're not telling the truth about that. I would advise whoever you're sending the link to Miles to ask him to watch the whole video. It's very interesting. It's only 22 minutes long anyway.
So again, back to the fundamental question, how do we get our numbers to increase? We're this tiny, tiny little Jim Jones, extreme fringe sect that's actually concerned about stopping the death of life on Earth, which is proceeding at an exponential rate. Why? Bill said it well. We're focused on our 401ks, which will be completely meaningless on a dead hot planet. But so it's just like we're kind of like an Adderall ADD 14-year-old just glued to some video game. And in this case, the video game is called money. I'm addicted to it as well, by the way. I frequently look at my screen. I'm checking my positions. How are things going? My name is Jamin Shively, and I'm an addict. Okay. So, and yet here I am. And so, let's face it, we're all addicted. We're all addicted to the game to different degrees. How do we do this? How do we grow our numbers to even spend part of our time, right? Fortunately, I'm able to spend a big chunk of my time. I don't have kids, so I can just focus on this. Other people have reconfigured their lives to be focusing on this. Bill's focusing on this while he's driving. God bless you, Bill. How do we get more people to be like Bill? And Bill, I think you were about to speak, so go ahead, Bill. I'll pass you the feather. Bill, you're free.
Worker.
Yeah, you're
a friend / worker who just came down with well, it was COVID. Him and myself are one of the holdouts that have not got it, and he's got something. It's the flu, but he tested twice yesterday and turned up negative. So he's just got something else. So I just dropped off a Pedialyte and groceries to him, and he looks like hell, but he's the toughest 60-something-year-old person I think I've ever met, and he seems to survive everything. So hopefully he'll be all right. But yeah, as far as waking people up, I think it's important that you do share your position. My ex has Sabina. I think you sent her an invite right out.
I did.
Yeah. We share our lovely kids together, and she knows. I've been sharing with her what's going on with the environment, and she knows what I'm telling her is the truth. So I mean, it's important to be accountable. And another thing you can do. So, I mean, when people are talking to me about the right way to proceed with, say, an electrical issue with their house to be ultra safe, or a building issue with their house because it's a structural integrity thing that could affect the safety of their home during an earthquake, they listen intently to what I'm saying. So when I bring this up as something that's very obvious, it's not like it's going on deaf ears. I just need to speak up more. So my voice is going to start carrying longer and farther as I go on here, and along with all of yours. But it's just important. Because I've kind of gotten a little fringy, and it's important to just be a rock for the people that I'm trying to influence, because those are the people that need to go over. Maybe they're just building up to this point. Maybe they're starting to watch some videos about the environment, and maybe they just need that little push. I'm in action mode. I wasn't in action mode. Now I'm in action mode. So I'm just trying to increase my knowledge on everything. And so when people ask me a question, I know more. I know a heck of a lot more than they do without coming across obtuse or condescending. I just want to be an effective communicator and just say that they don't want to know about all the details. I'm just like, hey, listen, you don't even have to know about all that. All I want you to do is focus on SRM. There's a few different ways. I'm looking at everything, and because again, it gets back down to what David Roberts was saying, where climate, you guys have watched the video, right? Climate change is simple. I can do it in 15 minutes. I mean, you don't even have to, you can pretty much know everything about what's happening with the climate. It's actually 17 minutes. So, and that's 10 years old. It's 10 years old in April. So, I mean, it's old news, but he was saying that the reason why a lot of people who are really smart just roll their eyes back when it comes to climate change is they don't want to do what I have done for the past 3 3/4 years, which is just dig in deep and figure it out and get involved with groups. And they don't want to do that. They don't have to do that. All they need to know is, okay, you don't have to do any of that. Watch David Roberts' video and go back to your family. In the meantime, write a check to these 2 organizations and send letters to your Congress people and send people David Roberts' talk on climate, and know that SRM can possibly affect the lives of your lovely grandkids. Because I mean, I'm dealing with people with grandkids now. It's not just their kids, it's grandkids, and this is terrifying, but it's, but so what? So is a car crash. So is war. Where we do terrifying really well, human beings. Just why don't we this is the best. It cracks me up. I mean, people are watching movies about horror movies. I'm like, if you want a horror movie, I got one for you right now. We're talking full blown failure of crops and what Ted Turner was talking about. You want horror? I got horror for you. I got horror. I can sell horror all day long. I don't really want to focus on horror because you have feelings and it scares you. But let's focus on SRM. I've already gone through the horror. I almost got in a car wreck when I figured out that people are going to start eating people. I don't really think that should be, you admit that, but I already know horror. That's okay. Let's just focus on solving the problem. It's solvable. I don't get it. Big oil can go on longer with SRM. They can sell more oil. We need oil to make the ships, mirrors, whatever you want to do. It's a big party. Come on, big oil, get them on board.
Yeah, the only problem is that big oil is steeped in big denial, right? Because prior to any of us learning about SRM, which, let's face it, only really started happening around 2016, that some of us started finding out. Where the heck are all those people that watched that TEDx talk of Stephen Salters in 2016? Where are they? My fear is that all this represents for these people, I think you hit the nail on the head, Bill. It represents yet another horror movie, right? So pick your favorite horror movie, right? Mine is The Ring, done in whatever it was, 2002 or whatever. Pick your favorite horror movie and go with that. Because people are into horror movies that they can then turn off at the end and say, oh, well, that was just, it was just a movie. For most of humanity, this is just a movie that someone else is going to solve, because it's way too big for me to solve. What can I do? Think of Luke Skywalker's quote in the original Star Wars Episode 4 in 1977, when Obi-Wan Kenobi said, hey, she needs your help, Luke. I need your help. Come with me. He said, oh, what can I do? I've got, his version of 401k, which was his uncle's farming operation. Right. So a big part of the problem is not just people being aware. We've been aware of global warming since freaking the 1980s. Right. And that it's coming. What did we do about it? Nothing. And so I think we have not just a crisis in distraction and addiction, to hoarding and business as usual. We have a crisis in agency. People don't recognize their own agency in doing something about this, right? They recognize their own agency in making money for themselves, and that's where most people end up focusing. Because the big lie that we need, one of the biggest lies that we need to blow up is that if I have enough, then I will be okay. Problem solved, right? One of the ways that that myth manifested is something we've all heard, which happens to be true, but a lot of people are using, most people I'd say are using to basically say, well, I'm going to be okay. And that's the following myth. And it's not, no, it's not, it's again, it's true what I'm about to say. And here it is, but it gives people cause for distraction. Is global warming disproportionately affects the poor. That's code for if you're wealthy, you're going to be fine. So the conclusion, focus on being wealthy, right? Focus on increasing your wealth. In the worst case scenario, you go underground into your bunker, passing the feather.
And for a lot of people out there, they're being led to believe now through mainstream media and social media that, you know, to be wealthy is to be successful in life, like, and to have the attention and the wealth and the luxury, and that seems to be something that's inherently been bred into our children now at a very, you know, from almost the moment of birth. You know what I'm saying? At this stage, they're nearly falling out of the womb now with mobile phones in their hands. So they're already stuck to technology and online by the age of 2 years of age. And I've witnessed this every day, and I'm sure many of you do as well. But that's just an example of how the system, another conspiracy with the system on how to manipulate us. They're getting, and it goes back to the epigenetic videos I shared there a while ago with Miles and that. They get to the young children and they influence them at a young age. We all know it's gone back over 500 years. It was part of the Catholic doctrine in the Catholic Church. Give me a raw baby, and in 10 years I'll give you a serial killer or a saint. You know what I'm saying? It's what's put into the child. It's the nurture as well as the nature of the child. So just like that, we're being nurtured, or our nature is being nurtured by this in a conspiratorial way by the powers that be, in a way to control our way of thinking and believing, so that we carry on in their destructive path in order to finance and fill their pockets with more money. So there is also a counter to that then as well, because just like I was speaking about tipping points there earlier on, the negative tipping points that we're on the verge of going over, as you've seen in that chart earlier, there is, contrary to that, and in that video, there are also positive tipping points within society, societal positive tipping points. And one of those is what you're all doing there with the Love All, Feed All program, which is, you know, feed everyone plant-based nutritious food, and that will eradicate an unmerciful amount of the destruction of the biosphere and the emissions that are being put into the system anyway. But positive feedbacks are something to be aware of, that people, and in order to have positive feedbacks, they're able to progress faster the more people that get on board. So therefore, that goes back to my point earlier. It's time for us all, different groups, to come together, to work together as one. Work together and help each other with all the different problems, but focus on the priorities, which are the first two dominoes to tip over, which is food and marine cloud brightening. And just an example there now of a positive feedback, which I'd say you'd be like Sarah and yourself, Jamie, would like to see anyway, in relation to food and Miles, is you know, it's the chart showing the progress of the vegan movement thus far, like. So you're very close. You're on the curve of the exponential, and I'll just show you the chart there now, exactly, you know.
Food and land use system positive tipping point. So there's this report. Maybe I'll have to talk about this in a separate video, but accelerating the 10 critical transitions, tipping points for food and land use systems transformation. So this is an example, the percentage of adaptation of the human and planetary health diet. Okay, so we've got, innovators, early majority and early adapters, late majority and laggards. You can look at this for any technology. So we can look at meat avoiders here, okay? And people that eat less and less meat, and then traditional meat eaters are here. So this is a transition from, meat eating society to a non-meat eating society, and how you can see, it can be very slow increase, but by 2030, say, if you reach 25% of the population eating very little meat, then it can tip up, and the rest of the population can get on board. So there's a lot of research on social theory on sort of tipping points for this sort of thing. So what can I do, right? Well, she asked that question. What could she do? A woman had no power to vote, and Lenton's distant relative, decided she would put her protest, go on a legal protest, was arrested. This is a prison picture. Woman got the vote. Okay, nonviolent protest. Okay.
So, I mean, your good work is and has been gradually, just like the exponential climate overheating of our planet has been gradually making progress. And you're very close to Silas's vision of a, vegan world by 2026, so to speak. So, it's just an example. Positive feedbacks. There are plenty of positive things that we can be doing as long as we can try to, because everybody is able to change. As again I said, it's only nurture, it's only what's been put into us has made us what we are thus far. We can change, as Franca said earlier, by doing different activities and reading different things. We can change our own views and change our belief systems as well, just as easily. So therefore, if we work together, working on positive feedbacks, by concentrating on the negative and working on the contrary, we can work together and actually make the changes that we need. We just need to come together.
Yeah, I'll chime in. One of the things that Bill talked about is that felt some guilt tearing around, driving around and feeling like, oh, really, I'm just adding more greenhouse gases as I'm building things. However, the thing is, though, if we're burning fossil fuels or our own personal energy, but we are doing something that we even just feel, we don't necessarily even have to have the proof that it's beneficial. It's a gift. It's in the cause of trying to leave a legacy for future generations, then we will feel better about it. And I don't know if Franca is still available. She studied psychology. And one of the things that I just learned recently is cognitive behavioral therapy is that there's a triangle that your thoughts create feelings. So if we're dwelling on the negative or using negative words like Marcos counseled, for me not to say I'm an incompetent vegan. And so I changed that to I'm a continuous learning vegan. That's a positive thought and it brings positive feelings. If I say I'm an incompetent vegan, I'm going to have a feeling that I'm a bad person. But if I'm a continuous learning vegan, I'm going to have feelings generated from that are good feelings. And then what's most important, though, is doing something like Paul Beckwith just pointed out in that video. The woman said, what can I do? I'm going to do something. And when you act, so like Sarah and others feeding people without any expectation of benefit, personal, no money being asked. This is a gift. Sarah and her team no doubt feel tremendous sense of positivity. So that goes back to reinforces more good thoughts, which goes to create more good feelings. So yeah, we do have to create the positive as much as possible. And this is where Carl Jung is so fascinating, and again connects with what Bill was saying. We have to remember, as Jim Blundell just said, well, what Bill said was that reality is the real movie that we're living in. And we have to make it a heroic movie that we're going to do positive things. Because Jim Blundell, in the video that you just shared, which I know just passed on to this person who was cynical about Dr. Salter, Jim Blundell says we got to remember, more than a pollution problem, more than a technological problem, this is a political problem. And under that, it's at the top of it, a psychological problem. So, we need to really spend more time talking psychology, I think. I'm passing the talking feather.
I feel like you might have addressed me. I'm drowning in models and things I could or could not say about this. And I'm on a journey myself. My journey is a different one, perhaps. I do a lot of Course in Miracles and Buddhist stuff and the work. So I might want to change the thing that I'm doing. I'm living personally, I'm growing in a deconstructivist attitude, like not take my thoughts and feelings seriously just because I have them. Step back and decide what I want to engage with. So, and I'm still engaged with this. So I don't know what I'm even saying. I would have to probably think about what I would like to propose as some kind of school for getting people engaged and designing things. I train leaders and change agents in organizations to do just that. And usually what I do with them is I assess their colleagues' potential objectives. And then we deal with them up front. And I train those leaders to develop their love and compassion and empathy for their coworkers, even if and especially when they're showing resistance. So I could talk about that, but I've got no ready-made answer for how do we impact society so people wake up. Another pool of experience I could possibly tap into is half of my family is East German, and I witnessed a lot of the attempts, more or less successful attempts of the East German, like the Communist Party, to influence their citizens. And I worked in an advertising agency, but yeah, I'm full of raw material, but I don't have a design or a strategy that's ready-made. I'm complete and confused, I guess. Complete.
Completely confused, as are all of us. But here's the cool thing, is by coming together, we're co-creating a strategy. And we don't know what it'll look like. We don't know when it'll emerge, but here we are, chipping away at it together. And that reminds me of a story which I'll tell, but it looks like Miles has something to say first. Go ahead, Miles.
Well, as I said, I'm really fascinated with Carl Jung. And what he says is that, he says what we have to remember is we are products of hundreds, a billion years of evolution. So in our psyche, in our soul, psyche means soul, we are still connected to the planet. We are all indigenous, even though we don't think of it that way. But and so, as I said, Carl Jung said, God is reality itself. And I'll just read this if I can. It's to this day, God is the name by which I designate all things which cross my willful path violently and recklessly, and all things which upset my subjective views, plans, and intentions, and change the course of my life for better or worse. So this is where Carl Jung can be a bridge between everybody, all religions, even to atheists, because he's saying, well, let's just step back and let's think of God as reality itself. So we can say this ugly reality is a challenge that we're being presented with. He goes on to say, for the collective unconscious, we could use the word God, but I prefer not to use big words. I'm quite satisfied with humble scientific knowledge, because it has the great advantage of bringing the whole experience into our immediate vicinity. So one of the things that I just feel it's happening right now is, so I came in here just thinking, I hadn't visited with this group for a bit. And now, it's spreading, right? I posted the Dr. Salter TEDx talk to this Canadian Association of the Club of Rome Googled group on climate. And so I don't know how many dozens, I don't know, is there 100 people, but they're now all getting this TEDx talk in their in basket. Then I have this person who's coming out and, dissing Dr. Salter's work, making some wrong statement about, Dr. Salter doesn't grasp climate or ice modeling when he actually does. And then James pulls out this Jim Blundell video without even understanding what's going on in my world and my exchange with these people. And that's what it's called, a synchronicity. Now, you don't have to believe it or not, but synchronicity is a concept of Carl Jung and suggests that there's all sorts of stuff in the unconscious that we don't understand, we have no concept of. But, now this gentleman is getting hit, and so is everybody else in this Club of Rome Google group with Dr. Salter and Jim Blundell. So it's the collective intelligence is also, there's an unconscious that we don't even have any concept of how powerful and how big it is. Reality that we see is just one small part of what really is reality.
Yes, but when we all come together and bring our little part of our one real part of reality for us, when we bring our little one parts of reality together and put the whole picture together, we begin to realize the proper and true reality and then change it.
Well, and it goes back to what Jamin said in Spanish. If you want to say that again, Jamin, about, we come to talk. Like that's the unconscious is made manifest by us talking. We're each with this event today, we're just moving closer to the goal by talking.
Hablando se entiende la gente. Talking is how people understand each other, is how we understand each other. And speaking of talking, it's 4 minutes to noon Pacific time. And Miles, you had suggested that, some of us go with you to your meeting just to check in and connect. I would be game to participate in that for a little bit because, you know, I need to be here on Fridays. But how long a visit do you think would be meaningful, and how many of us, and when would you like to go and do that little field trip?
It's so casual. It's so casual. They don't even start at a set time. It's roughly going to start, if it starts. I'm pretty sure it will. It usually does. Any time in the next half hour. And this hangout is open for about an hour and a half, and people just come and go as they please, sort of thing. So the only thing I can do, because it doesn't have a hard start, it's just that informal, I just have to monitor my Gmail to see when Art has opened up the hangout. So it's just, if it happens, I'll just tell you, well, we can do the field trip now.
Okay, so you'll let us know.
Yes.
And Sarah nominates me and Bill to join you, and maybe James as well. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, James, James could come over and just tell us about the event he's hosting, if he wants. I think K-Corp people would be interested in that too. I'm for sure they're interested in that. See you later, Franca.
Yeah, we'll see you in a bit, Franca. We'll see you in a bit. Thanks, Franca.
One of the things I'll share, and I mentioned this in the VCOP, is Carl Jung there's numerous quotes of him saying that we don't appreciate the conscience and consciousness of the animal kingdom. And here he goes on, he says, quote, "You all know what the collective unconscious is. You have certain dreams that carry the hallmark of the collective unconscious. Instead of dreaming of Aunt this or Uncle that, you dream of a lion. And then the analyst will tell you that this is a mythological motif, and you will understand that it is the collective unconscious." So this God is no longer miles of abstract space away from you in an extra mundane sphere. This divinity is not a concept in a theological textbook, nor in the Bible. It is an immediate thing. It happens in your dreams at night. It causes you to have pains in the stomach, diarrhea, constipation, and a whole host of neuroses. So yeah, we are more connected to the animals than most of us have been programmed to think.
You know, I mentioned earlier a story that I'd like to share, which makes me want to cry when I say it. Melissa tells the story. This is my first time telling it, but it's in a Native American story about there's a forest that's been all chopped down except for one little baby tree. And the little baby tree doesn't know that it's all alone. And it's yelling out to who it presumes is there with it, saying, "Hey, hey, who's there? Who's there?" The grandmother trees taught us that we all need to hang on by our roots to weather the storm. Let's all hang on by our roots. And I feel like we're that little tree right here. saying, is there anyone out there? Who's there? We all need to hang on by our roots. And for me, where that's taking me is to Los Angeles, to get into action. We're only going to go but so far talking on Zoom. We need to get into action and hang on by our roots and tell that story. All right, and share it. And welcome. Wait, let me welcome Gabrielle. Gabrielle, welcome. Welcome. More great Canadians in the house. Welcome, Gabrielle. And we are recording. Yeah.
I'll just say that when you feel that depth of emotion, that is the unconscious is really breaking through. Yeah, and so Art Hunter has now opened the Friday Hangout with the Club of Rome. So I have an email with the link. And yeah, when do you think you might want to pop over there? So Gabrielle, we're just planning a field trip to this other group.
Well, you know, in the spirit of it all hanging on together, I could leave. My community cafe image here is another computer of mine. I could leave that one here in the main room. We could all go over, as far as I'm concerned, and be like, whoa, you know, hey, we're all here from the block party.
I think that's a great idea. So I'll just post I'll just go and grab the message and I'll post it in the chat. And then basically it's like people who want to go can go over there and we'll talk with Art. And Art's a fascinating man. Let me just give you a little heads up. He has a PhD in aeronautics engineering, and he had some job of calculating satellite orbits. So he's a brilliant man. He lives near Ottawa and has created his own electrical system off the grid. So he has solar panels, he has geothermal, and that's another topic. Like, why is it we don't have geothermal all over the place to provide heating and cooling? Is beyond me. But anyway, he's got geothermal, he has electric vehicles and battery backup and all this. I sometimes think, you know, that's going overboard. But anyway, a brilliant man. And so that's who you will have an opportunity to meet if you want to join us in this field trip.
Sorry, I'm a little lost. Do you mind just telling me where it is you're going?
It's called the Canadian Association of the Club of Rome. And I joined them a few months ago. Just, I don't know, something drew me to them. And they host weekly calls with rather prominent and fascinating scientists in various fields. Paul Beckwith, for example, has spoken a couple of times to them. And also Dr. Bill Reese, who's is attributed with the concept of ecological footprint. He is a regular attendee as well. And so when I popped in here, they were talking solar radiation management, marine cloud brightening. And I just thought, oh gosh, that would be a great topic for this group to host if I could be a sponsor for Dr. Salter. And you guys some of you are connected to Dr. Salter. So that's where I thought, well, they have this informal hangout every Friday where they just chat. And I thought, well, why not just bring some of you guys over to talk about how we could perhaps connect with Dr. Salter or Dr. Ye Tao, and Bill is here too. So anyway, that's the background.
We can very easily arrange for Professor Salter to give a presentation to your club. There's no problem there. He's well up for giving the presentations and things like that. Like, so you're only 4 hours behind us anyway. So he likes to work in the afternoon, kind of a thing. But there's no bother if you want to arrange for him to give a presentation as well. We can do that. Like.
Last weekend when we had the convergence, the vegan convergence of the peoples, we had Captain Paul Watson was one of the keynote speakers, and I was so pleased that Marco asked the question during the Q&A if he'd be willing to talk about SRM. And I just wondered if you'd had any success with that. Have you been able to contact Paul Watson? And is he, I mean, I'm sure he'd be interested in this group.
Yeah, I just got his email address from Silash a few minutes ago. I'm composing the email now.
Oh, great. Yeah, he should join this room on from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., I guess it is, Pacific time.
Yep. And I just want to second Sarah's motion that we go now to the Canadian Club of Rome meeting. Anyone who wants to go. I'm leaving a computer here to host, and I'll hold the fort here.
How do you get there? Did you put it in the chat?
Miles is posting the link in the chat. So just click on that. It's another Zoom meeting. And
oh, okay.
So shall we head over now, Miles? And Miles will introduce us.
Yeah, it's the link is there now. So I imagine all you have to do is hit that link.
Well, I'll give it a try. And if I have any trouble, I've got 2 computers here, so I'll let you all know how it goes.
I'll give it a try too at the same time. And then you can